When I was in marriage counseling for the end of my first marriage, we went together to an analyst. I don't know if he was a Jungian analyst, but I think I asked him at one point, how does this end? And he said, I don't know. Okay, and that's the point, that an analyst can't tell you what's right for you. Okay, you have to decide what's right for you. That's the only solution that will work for you.
It's also why he's a bit of an artist because they're trying to navigate the patient, the client, uh, through through as the client is searching. The therapist is trying to help them navigate that search without knowing. It's sort of like well, I know pornography when I see it. It's sort of like you don't know when they found what they need to find, what they're searching for, until it's just suddenly there, and you don't know how they're going to get there, but you keep trying. The therapist is going to keep trying to navigate you in that direction, and the more successful that person is, and it could be somebody who doesn't understand much of anything. He's just really intuitive, and has a certain technique that just comes up instinctively, and it helps that person. And that person who did it may never understand how they helped them. Can you see how that might happen? Like an artist, it's sort
Sure,
of like
absolutely.
you're working from the unconscious, and you happen to be good at it, and you go, wow. And so it could be just Aunt May over here, because she's just really good at it, at listening to people and sort of feeding them the right line at the right time or something.
Right. Did you ever see the movie Pollock? And you remember at the fairly early in the movie where Lee visits Jackson's apartment, and he's painting, and he's actually putting figures on his painting. So he's putting like numbers and various things on his painting. And Lee says to him, Jackson, you have to connect something to nature. You have to connect back to something that humans understand. And his answer was, I am nature. Okay, that's his answer. And later in the movie, when his drip paintings have no images whatsoever, and everybody's saying, is gaga, uh, that he's broken through, he's gotten through to the unconscious. That's where I lost it. Okay, I understood the part about I am nature, but I didn't quite get why everybody was so gaga about the drip paintings until sitting at this table and Bill's instantaneous little remark that he made, and I said, aha, now I get it. Okay. And if you look at that video I sent you last week about um, the Navy jets, that was another experience for me. Okay.
I saw it. I watched it.
Right. And what that did was it connected me up. I was sitting there, and I left it going intentionally because I wanted to leave the video in case something happened. And what came up was the scene out of Witness. Okay, that came from deep in my unconscious. Okay, I like that movie, and I like that scene, but I wasn't thinking about that scene. I was reading
What scene in Witness?
the scene in Witness where the little boy Samuel is playing around in the flour canister, and he finds
Explains the
Harrison Ford's pistol, right? And he pulls it out and he starts to play with it. And you go, oh my God, what's going to happen next, right? What's this kid going to do with this pistol? And then his grandfather comes down and his hand appears and he takes the pistol away from him. And the little boy says, oh, well, that's for shooting bad men. And his grandfather says, and how will you know the bad men? How do you know the bad men? And that connection for me with the Navy jets flying over was, you know, a pilot of an F-18 has no clue whether the people that they're dropping a bomb on are good or bad. They're following an order from a senior officer somewhere up the line who says these people have to die. Basically, that's what they're saying. And even they don't know if they're good people or bad people. And obviously we have plenty of incidents where we kill innocent civilians, right? You hear about them all the time. And, you know, it's a very powerful thought. I mean, we do have godlike power. And the significance of that passage in answer to Job that I was reading when the jets flew over, my God, how could I create something more synchronous than that? I mean, because that was almost the punchline of answer to Job, that paragraph. And to have the Navy jets fly over at that moment, I couldn't have planned it, no way. But to realize that, okay, so we have this power in the United States. We can kill anybody we want in the world. Okay. And what do we do with it? What do we do with that power? How do we decide what is right and what is wrong? I mean, we're as a nation, we're going through that right now in spades. I mean, we see it on our current affairs programs every night, where we're really struggling as a nation about what's right and what's wrong, right? You have to appreciate the dilemma of the Republicans, because they have power now, and you know, do they stand up and stop somebody that they don't think is appropriate for the office of president or not?
I think oftentimes they're more concerned about their image than they are about serving the world.
Well, they're more concerned about their next election, that's clear. And, you know, to the extent they have an altruistic bone in their body, they have to be thinking, you know, does this, what this man in the White House is doing, is that serving the country or not? Obviously, a couple of them now have gotten off the boat.
But it doesn't matter, Skip. Either party, the people, our people are just not trained in making these distinctions in ethics and morality.
I understand that. I agree with you.
They're not even thinking about the implications of what they're doing most of the time, I'm convinced.
Well, I agree with that entirely. And that's a problem we have in our society and in the global society.
And technologists as well.
I mean, this is the transformation.
Should you be developing a nuclear weapon, for instance? There are.
Well, I mean.
See, I was just saying that.
Yeah.
People aren't trained to at least think about it, you know.
Well,
It's
I think some are. Okay, I don't agree with that.
Well, I went to engineering school, and there was nothing in there about that. It was about the engineering challenges of making whatever stuff.
I understand that, but I believe that the war colleges do train that. Okay.
But they're not the ones making. I'm talking about technologists here.
Well, if a
I'm a
pure,
lot more familiar with that side than the
well,
military
I
side.
mean, I was reading things from Jung, his letter to Dorothy, what's her name? Dorothy Thompson, last year, where he's talking about beware the generals. Their fingers are going to itch. They're going to want to use these things, right? And so if you're a
Von Moltke.
pardon,
Von Moltke.
sure. So
Goes to that crew.
if you're a trained engineer and you've learned how to build a nuclear weapon, then what do you want to do? You want to build a nuclear weapon, right?
Make sure it works.
Or see if it works,
Yeah.
right? And which is what happened.
Validate your efforts. Yeah.
But who was in charge of the Manhattan Project? Oppenheimer. Okay, so Oppenheimer understood, though, the morality of what he did, because he quoted that passage out of the Bhagavad Gita after the first nuclear test. So he understood.
Later in his career, later in his life, when he was near death, he was. There were people who heard him voicing his pride in his accomplishment. So it's
Well,
a
sure.
validation for an engineer, for a technologist. That's a validation. It's very, very powerful motive.
Right, and so you can't be all goody two shoes, right? Because what if
No, I understand.
what if the Germans or the Japanese had developed the nuclear weapon first?
But then why did he not work on the super,
What, on the hydrogen
on the
bomb?
hydrogen bomb?
I don't know. I mean, that's an individual choice. So everybody has to make their own individual choice, and this is Jung's point, that everyone has to make an individual choice. So if you ask me, if I were in battle, if I were called back to active duty as a Marine, would I kill somebody? Yes, of course I would. And would I take orders from my superior officers? Certainly I would. All right. And so that's not the issue. The issue is what's the global result? What's the alchemical result? Okay, because we're all just little inputs into the alchemical vase. All right? And so Oppenheimer was one. Lots of other people were involved. But if we hadn't developed a nuclear weapon, what would have happened in the world? What would have happened? I mean, other people were doing it. The technology was
I'm not
known.
questioning that. I'm just
Right.
saying it's not taught. It's not taught.
The morality of it isn't taught.
Well, making the encouraging the thought process to make. I mean, Jung would be an excellent training
Right.
ground.
Okay. And so
Okay.
this is the transformation that Jung was talking about, right? Volume 10 of the collected works is called Civilization in Transition. And he's not talking about a transition that's going to take place in the next decade. He's talking about a transition that has to take place in 500 years. In fact, he said 600 years. But humanity has to start thinking about issues differently than what we did. Okay,